in our last get together, on page 86, 49 gave us a message. तुद बाजो थाओ को नाही जिस पासों मंगी है मन वेखो ओ निर्जास सब तुदे नू सलाहां दे दर गुरमुखां नो सा परगास. There is no other. Even though humanity has tried to convince that their God or creator or power is bigger, better than the other, reality speaks for itself. There is no other. There is only one. But this illusion, this fallacy continues to haunt the mankind. So somebody raises a question and say, why? If there is only one and somebody else comes around, gives it a new name, and then start arguing the fact that this new name is better than the old name, why wouldn't humanity rise against this in a single voice? That leads to next shloka. Shlok Mela Tija, Pandat Parh Kookda Maya Moho Pyar. The word Pandit, we discussed, is not meant to cast aspersion on somebody. That's why it is highlighted. The last letter of this word, Pandat, is highlighted. There is a ankad underneath it. Pandat Parh Ucha Kookda. The word Pandit is used in that sense, those who declared themselves to be of higher intellect from the rest of the world. It has nothing to do with Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, Christianity. It is a universal word. In Gurbani, it basically says that if you are educated in the ways of the spirituality, of mysticism, then you deserve to be called a Pandit. But if you are not, if you have only the book knowledge, information gathered around from yourself, then you don't deserve to be called a Pandit. But those who are making a living out of it, they don't pay attention to that definition. Everybody becomes a Pandit. So that when they go out in the world, Kookda, they yell at the top of their voice to tell the world that we are the real knower of the truth. And people being busy in their own life as they are, rather than spending time and energy to investigate that claim, they just take it at the face value, forgetting the fact that the reason this person is declaring himself to be the knower, he has one interest and only one interest, which is Maya, Moha, Pyar. He has the attachment with the wealth. He needs the wealth. And whichever way he can or she can make you pay them for their services. And what service are they providing? They are answering your questions about what the life is and how it should be. They provide their version of it. And in doing so, they are able to convince the world. Pandat, Parh, Ucha, Kookda. Higher tone. Somebody was telling me, one who just had come back from India, and he, being from a European country, he shared with me his experience that somebody was standing in the middle of the road and the people had gathered around him. And he got curious and he went there also. And the person who was standing way behind asked him as to what's going on here. And the person said, I don't know, he was just standing on the corner, looking strangely towards the sky, and people just gathered around him to ask him what he's looking at. And that's enough to gather people around yourself. Just make any gesture or make any statement and people will show their curiosity as to what's going on. As if they themselves have nothing else to do. It's a strange phenomenon in that country. And Gurbani is recognizing that. It's saying, Pandat, Parh, Ucha, Kookda. All he has done is, he has studied a few books. Parh. It's a very important statement here. He is calling himself a Pandit. He has not experienced anything. But he has certainly read some books. And based on reading those books, he goes out to the world to convince, to market, to sell an idea. And in that selling the idea, he is gathering the wealth. Now, by itself, one cannot object to anybody making a living. The problem with this is that he is now becoming the cause of misguiding those who are listening to him. So Gurbani goes on to say, yes, he is in need of money, wealth, Maya, Moho, Pyar, Antar Brahm na chinai man Murkh Gavar, Duje Pae Jagat Parbodda. There is the problem. Antar Brahm na chini. He has absolutely no awareness of what the higher states of consciousness are, what the real Brahman is. He is not at all aware of it. He doesn't even want to make an effort to know it, but he only wants to sell himself as a Pandit. Man, Murkh, Gavar. These terms are being used to describe. Gavar in Punjabi language literally means the person who has vested no time and energy in gathering wisdom. So the mind is completely asleep, murshat. From a pure internal awareness point of view, he is not more than gawar. But he has taken upon himself duje bhaye jagat parbodhda. Parbodhda literally means to teach someone else. He says he himself is trapped into the maya, duje bhaye. He is trapped into the world of illusion. But he has taken upon himself to teach others. Therein lies the problem. If he was only focused on himself and did not try to impose his own vision, his own thought process, his own definition on the others, the life would be lot different on this planet. And we can see that regardless of which system of thought we look at, from the Eastern continent, if you want to look at the Vedanta leading up to Buddha, Jainism, in the Middle East, Islam, in the West, Christianity and Judaism, these are the main system of thoughts. If you look at all of them, you will find humanity being overburdened with their personal interpretation of the highest level of energy. And in that lies the misguidance. And that's basically misfortune of the humanity. The humanity at large is not completely free of the responsibility because they were supposed to apply their own intelligence to this. But they didn't. They just ran with it. If in Islam it is said that converting an infidel to Islam by any means possible will guarantee a place in heaven, they ran with it. So if somebody can convert it by marriage, somebody can convert it by persuasion, somebody can convert it by force, everything is okay. If Christianity said that follow Jesus because Jesus died for your sins, they ran with that cause. If Judaism said the place of Jerusalem is specifically allotted to you by God himself, that piece of land belongs to you, they ran with it, didn't question it. So as you can see, humanity has equal responsibility to where we are today in the level of human consciousness. We haven't applied ourselves. Coming to Sikhism, we have the same problem. If Gurbani said there is no other discipline required for you, you start the life by remembering him, chanting his name, doing the job. Japho to eko nama, our nirafal kama. We didn't listen. We created our own system. We created our own discipline. No, we will do this instead. And we continue. And then we wonder why the life is where it is at. And Gurbani, right here, in this shloka on page 86 is very, very clearly stating, Duje bhai jagat prabodh da na bujhe bichar. Humanity doesn't think. Bichar nahi karti. Because it doesn't do that, then what's the end result? Na bujhe. The riddle is not solved. Bujhara to bujhi nahi aandi. They don't get anything. Because that requires contemplation. That requires deep, honest, unbiased analysis of what is being presented to you, regardless of who is doing the presentation. Whether it is somebody so-called guru, somebody so-called saint, somebody called a Jnani, a Pandat, a Mullah, a Padre, it is totally irrelevant. What is irrelevant is, you go deep inside yourself and say, does it make sense? Why would God, out of the entire population of the world, pick up a set of people and treat them as special? You are the chosen one. Why would he do that? If we can just sit down and unbiased, impartially analyze this, we would know that whatever that God is, if it is a God, it cannot be partial. The God has to be impartial to the entire creation. Not just one nation, one set of people, but the entire universe. It has to be impartial. It's all His creation. But we would not analyze it. We would not look at. For the last 5,000 years of documented history, from the day of Abraham and Moses in the Western Hemisphere, this thought has only gone further deep into the consciousness of humanity than getting analyzed. And you can see these examples on the East and on the West. Sikhism would not encourage a blind following, blind faith without first thinking about it. Look at it, analyze it, study the scripture, seek counsel of the similar impartial thinkers, not the one who has interest in making money. That's a requirement. Gurbani says anybody who is interested in making the money out of the religion has actually wasted a life cycle. Sikhism is against the type of preaching class who makes livelihood out of that. Trig tenaka jiveya jo likh veche now. Gurbani. Trig tenaka jiveya. A complete waste of life. Whose life? Jo likh veche now. Those who make notes out of the spiritual message and then go and sell it. At another place, Gurbani says, Tin sang sanghay na kichai nanak jinna apana swao. Swao literally means selfish motive. If there is a selfish motive, don't even keep the company of such a person. That person would not be able to help you. That person has a self-interest. So if you are going to go seek the guidance on spiritual, religious matters, you have to find someone who's not making a livelihood out of it. And that is what This shloka is saying, Pandat Parh Ucha Kookda, Maya Moho Pyar, Antar Brahm na Chinai, Man Murakh Gawar, Duje Bhai Jagat Parbodda, Na Bujhe Bichar, Birtha Janm Gavaya, Mar Jamme Varo Var. Wasted a complete cycle, hence being born again is absolutely guaranteed. Nothing can save this type of individual. In Astadivar, Gurbani told us also the similar thought. Wine chile, nachan gur, pair hilayan, Seran sir, udud rava, chate pae, vekhe log, hanse ghar jaye, rotiyan karan, pure taal, aap pachade, dharti naal. Therein lies the problem. Rotiyan karan pure taal. For the sake of to satisfy his own hunger, he is doing all this dance. Wine chele, nachan gur. The disciples are playing on the instruments and the teacher is dancing. Wine chele, nachan gur. Pair hilayan, pair and sir. They are making all kinds of body gestures with the feet, with their head. Udud rava jhate pae. The dust is flowing all over the place, making everybody dirty. The people are watching, vekhe log. And what do? Hanse ghar jaye. When they go home, they just laugh about how this guy was doing all these things. They haven't gained it, it became an entertainment. But what is the gur doing, the pandit doing? The rotiyan karan pure taal. Okay, fine, you needed the girls and you are doing all of this. Don't you understand what has happened here? Aap pachade, you yourself have fallen behind and with you, you have taken the rest. Aap pachade, dharti naal. Everybody on the planet is also the one who is watching you, listening to you, following you, has wasted the life just as you have wasted the life. Same thought is being repeated here. Birtha janma gavaya, mar jamme varo var. Now the cycle of life and death cannot be at all shortened. It may increase. But those who do think, those who do the vichar, for them the next shloka. Jinni Satgur Sevya, Tinna now Paya, Bujo Karvichar. Those who accepted the guidance of their guru, of their master, they took the prasad grace, Tinni now Paya. They took the name from him and then pondered over it. They did not follow blindly. Bujo Karvichar. Sada Sant, Sukh Man Vatsay, Chuke, Kook Pukar. Since they followed it, now they are at peace within themselves. They do not have to compare themselves with anybody. They just look inside. All of their noise level from within has disappeared. Chuke, Kook, Pukar. Inner noise disappears provided you listen to the master and follow on the footsteps being given to you. Ape nu aap khaye, man nirmal hove, gushabdi vichar. Beautiful metaphor. Ape nu aap khaye. Ape nu, the ego, the I, becoming alert about the game of this ego, the self decides to surrender the ego. Apenu aap khaye. See, the ego cannot be ever destroyed by somebody else's help, somebody else's doing. Because if somebody else is trying to destroy your ego, ego will stand up and fight. Because ego exists only when the other exists. And if you are going to set up a conflict with the other, ego is not going to go down. All of us who have children have experienced this firsthand. A little child, no matter how much at fault this child is, you can punish him, slap him, yell at him, he would not surrender his ego. You can say sorry, he's going to stare at your face. He's going to cry, but he's not going to say sorry. What's wrong with that, saying sorry? That is the core of his ego. That's how he exists. Now, when nobody is watching, nobody is there, he might feel sorry, he might say sorry, but he wouldn't say when somebody else is watching. The other cannot be used to manage the ego. The ego has to be managed by the self, within itself. The higher consciousness has to wake up and tell the lower consciousness, say, stop being such a stubborn person. Surrender. Apenu aap khaye. A very great secret to be remembered. Apenu aap khaye, and when you are able to do that, mana nirmal hoga. Now the mind is going to start dropping all of the dirt and dust of impure knowledge that it has gathered. Because then once the eye starts dropping, all things associated with it also stop dropping. How do these people do that? It's a Gur Shabdi Vichar. They sit amongst like-minded people and they discuss, they analyze, they go deeper into the mystical words. They seek each other's help and support in trying to demystify the life, demystify the creation, try to understand it in its true nature, rather than, well, when I was growing up, my father told me this, my professor told me that, my guru told me that. That won't work. We can absolutely be sure any past information which limits the growth, think about it. If somebody said there is a God who lives on the 27th heaven, have we not limited the God to a single place? Or it's on a 101 heaven, or it doesn't matter what. And people have these stories. And they really believe that. There are so many places, there are so kind of things, this is what he does, this is what he doesn't do, this is what he likes, this is what he doesn't like. Isn't that amazing? That we don't step back and say, hold it, did we not understand the definition of the creative energy? It is omniscient. It is omnipresent. It's omnipowerful. How can we limit that energy to a single place or to a single habit or a single characteristic. How is it that possible? It is required of the humanity to see the godliness in its all pervasiveness. Nirakar. Now, there are books written and available in the library. God is an Englishman. God is a man. Somebody wrote, no, God is a black man. Why? Because the civilization started in Africa. So he had to be a black man. He created first the black man, not the white man. Can we not see how juvenile these arguments are? But we don't. And Gurbani is saying, you need to wake up and do what? Apeno आप खाए, मन निर्मल हो गए, गुर शब्दी विचार. Think, analyze in an unbiased, unencumbered thinking. And if you get stuck, then seek the counsel and company of those who are also equally interested in that type of journey. Don't run to your nearest temple, gurdwara, mosque, church and go talk to the Pandat, Gyani, Mullah unless you sincerely know that this person is also freed up from the bondage of who you are. There is a beautiful article circulating on the internet that a group of people went to visit India. When they came back, the reporter asked that group, how did you find India? They said it's a very interesting land, full of colors, full of smells, full of sounds, very new experience. The second question was, how did you find the Indians? The response was, we didn't meet any Indians. The reporter was completely shocked. He said, wait a minute, in India, who do you meet if not Indians? He said, we did not meet Indians. We met Gujaratis, we met Punjabis, we met Maharashtrians, we met Hindus and Muslims and Buddhists and Sikhs. We did not meet Indians. What an eye-opening statement. We as humanity cannot even look at macro level of a country. Can you imagine if we are asked to look at a macro level of the world? Would we be able to do that? If we cannot even get the consciousness evolved enough that it can see itself as belonging to a country? The thinking, if it is that shallow, if it is that narrow, and we are talking of a creative energy which existing in the entire universe, how are we going to be able to perceive it, conceive it, deal with it? Gurbani is challenging us today, saying you need to develop that capability. Apenu aap khaye, man nirmal hove, gur shabdi vichar. That thinking needs to be of a universal nature. It cannot be for a particular set of people or a particular piece of land or a particular country. It has to be universal because Gur Shabad is universal. And if that happens, the result is very obvious. नानक शब्द रते से मुक्त है, हर जियो हेत प्यार. Now the potential for getting closer to the highest creative energy becomes wide open. नानक शब्द रते से मुक्त है. Free from all bondages. Once you are completely influenced and accept the influence of this universal word, Shabad Rate. If you are influenced and affected by that, then that tells everybody that you are free from all labels, all bondages. And if you are not free from the bondages, then the word has not yet seeped into, it has not had the desired effect. To have its desired effect, you will have to free from all bonds. Where you were born, who your parents, what your caste was, what your country is, what your education is, what your title is. You name it. You can make a list of on and on and on. Gurbani accepts no list. A Bhagat, a meditator, a Sikh has no caste, no creed. I Panthi, Sagala Jamati. Panth, Rasta, the way of life. What's the way of life for a Sikh? Sagala Jamati, belonging to everything. Can we even look in the mirror and see how close we are to this? Let's not look at the others. Let's not point a finger to the outside. Let's apnare gariban mein sir neevan kar de. Let's look inside and see, are we anywhere closer to this aim? If we are not, we have a work to do. What is that work, Pauli? हर की सेवा सफल है, गुरमुख पावै थाए. We need to get on with हर की सेवा. Now be very careful here. This is the seva of Hari. Now we have not seen him, Hari. We have been told he has no form, no shape, no name, nothing. So how are we going to serve him? Gurbani solves that problem for us. Har ki seva safal hai. So how do we serve him? Learn it from the Gurbani. He says, Har ki tehal kamamani. If you have made up your mind that you're going to serve her, let me teach you. Now wait a minute, sir. Hari lives in the people, so if we serve people, are we not serving him? No, you are not serving him. You are serving humanity. And if you are serving humanity, someday humanity will be useful to you. If you help a human being, someday you will be helped by another human being. That's Satogun. That's not Tuya Avastha. That's not transcending the three gunas. Tamo, Rajo, Sato. He can be served only when you transcend all of the three guna. Tamo, Rajo, Sato has to be transcended. You need to go to Turiya. So how do you get to Turiya? Gurbani says, let me teach you. Har ki tehel kamamani, japiye prabh ka naam. That's how you serve him. You remember him day and night. जो बहंदियां उठदियां हर नाम ते आवे. You remember him in every act of your life. Mind you, it's not saying stop acting, stop working. It's saying while you are working, keep in his mind. When you keep him in mind, we are such a slave of the language. Somebody asked me only the other day, said, well, why you keep on saying him, 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 him? Can it not be her, 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 her? The problem is, if you say her, 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 it will be just as wrong as him, 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 him. We have to establish ourselves first. There is no way to describe that creative energy. There is no way to identify that creative energy. There is no way to compare that energy. We have no capability to name that energy. All names are false. God, Allah, Ram, Rahim, Waheguru, all names are false because they're limited. Since we do not have, for convenience sake, we have chosen a word. Please don't hang on to the word. Gurbani says, nobody named him. Api ne aap sajiyo, api ne rachiyo now. Look at the word. It's not rakhiyo now. Rachiyo now. Rachanatmak. Rachana cho aaya naam. If you look at him as somebody who provides you, you call him Parvardigar. If you look at him because he has graced you, you call him Mehraban, Dayalu, Data. Those are but fraction of what that energy is. It cannot be done, cannot be said, cannot be... Gurbani said, it's more difficult than try to crush the balls of steel. Nanak kathana karra sar. Take the balls of the steel and try to crush them. It's even more difficult than that. So don't fall into the trap of the language. Try to go beyond it and see what it is trying to say. Har ki seva safal hai, gurmukh paave thai. So Hari ki seva, nothing more than and nothing less than. No exception to the rule. Sukhmani says, Jap ho to eko nama, avar nirafal kama. All other karma kand. Kama does not mean that you should not be working. Kama here means all other karma kand. This is not the word coming from a translator. It's not coming from a jnani. It's coming from the beyond. It is saying, if you want to be in the service of the creative energy, har ki seva, then only possibility of its success, safal hai. How it is going to be safal? How it is going to be successful? Gurmukh paave thai. You've got to pay attention to what Guru has said. The word that came from Guru, Gurmukh, You pay attention to that seva, do that seva, then you have a chance of success. What would be the indication that it is successful? Next line. Jis har bhav hai, tis gur milai. So har naam dhyaaye. Herein lies the secret. Gurbani chops out the roots of the ego. In the first sentence it has said, do har ki seva. But in that instance, immediately Gurbani reminds, watch out now, ego is going to come from the back door and it is going to say, aha, I understood the secret. Now I really got it. Har ki seva, now I'm going to do har ki seva, I'm going to do the job. Wow. How come the others don't? I got it. That's the ego's back door. And Gurbani reminds, no, you didn't get it. It's not your doing. How did you get it? He said, jis har bhav hai. It was his grace. It was his prasad. He put that thought to you. Don't take the credit for it. Don't declare it to the world. Look, nobody else understands Gurbani but me. How many people know this? As soon as you go there, whatever you know and whatever you do has already been taken away. Kabir ji very, very clearly expressed this helplessness of the mankind. It says, Baba, apna baso eh gao, ghari ghari ka cheta mange, lekha mange, kayat cheto now. Ghari ghari ka lekha mange. This is a very hideous problem. On one hand, I sit down and I do something. Ego comes from the back door and says, oh, you devoted these many minutes to God. You are a great boy. You are a great man. You are a great woman. You got up early in the morning. You did all the 5 Bani Parh. Not too many people can do that. Everything that is done has already been taken away. Just like you throw the seed on the field to make it a plant, it's like that the birds come and pick the seed right off the surface. It doesn't allow you to go deep in at all. That's the nature of ego. That's why hame dheere virog hai. That's why Gurbani reminds, every time Gurbani says, do something, it will remind you and say, well, watch out. Don't become the doer now. If you are doing, you are not doing, He is doing through you. It is His grace. It's a very powerful concept to bear in mind, to keep the ego in check. Jis har bhave, tis gur mile, so har naam dhyaaye. It was His grace. That grace sent you the word through a master who has already been there. Tis gur mile. You got that technique through the master. But that master was sent by him. You did not do anything in it. Don't take the credit for it. Jis har bhave tis gur mile, so har naam adhyaye. Once you got it, now put it into practice. Now we are going in circles. What a riddle this is. You just said He did it. So let him do the second one also. Why are you asking me now to do the Nam Jai? Those are the mysteries of Gurbani. The job is going to be done by the instruments that has been given to you in the form of physical body. God does not have a physical body. You are His representation. So job is going to be done by your mouth, your tongue. Hence, go use that instrument. But don't take the credit, because the energy given to the mouth and to the tongue, to the job, is not your own. It is coming from somewhere else. Hence, even though you are doing the job, you cannot take the credit for it. It appears to the outside world that you are doing the job, but you are not. Physically you are. But that's not the total life. Total life consists of physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Those are the four dimensions in which human life exists. One dimension is not enough to define the life. So watching somebody physically moving the mouth and saying Vaheguru, Ram, Allah, Gobind, Om, etc. does not mean he is doing the job. Yes, the mouth is moving, that is okay. But the moving energy is somewhere else. So don't lose the focus. Gur Shabdi Har Paiye, Har Par Langhaye. That is the word which is going to help you to transcend this physical dimension, this intellectual and emotional dimension, and take you to the spiritual dimension. If you have had enough of the three dimensions, which are, once again, physical, emotional, and intellectual. If you have had enough of these, and you want to now exist forever in a spiritual dimension, then you have to follow this process. Gur Shabdi Har Paiye. You have to use that word. You have to do that job. You have to get to that state of samadhi which will help you to transcend the cycle of life and death. Gur Shabdi Har Paiye, Har Par Langhaye, Man Hat Gine Na Payo. That is one of the karma. Man Hat. Hat Yog. What is the Hat Yog? I am going to stay hungry. We have done so much injustice to ourselves by believing in the stories that Namdev sat in front of a statue of a god and said, unless you drink this milk, I am not going to eat anything. I am not going to drink anything. Now this is called Hat. Zid, stubbornness. We have a story which says that Dhanna sat in front of just a lump of stone and said, you have to appear before me through this stone, otherwise I am not eating anything. And we believe in these stories. Again and again I travel around and I find people saying, Lo ji, Vishwash hona chahiye. Dhanne ne patthar chupa liya. We should have our belief, solid belief. If Dhanna can get, because of that belief, achieve the highest consciousness, see God in person through a stone, because he had the belief. Let me tell you, those who are listening, categorically, these stories are completely false, imaginary, and fabrications. Because if they were true, Gurbani will never say, Man hat kine na payo. Those are not my conclusions. Gurbani is telling you. घर में ठाकुर नजर न आवे, गल में पाहन ले लटकावे. You can't see the God within you, but you have the statue of God in the form of a necklace around your neck. गुनेगार लून हरामी, पाथर पाहन न पार गरामी. Think about it. Stone cannot be cause of your salvation, because stone cannot give the salvation to the self. जिस पाहन को ठाकुर कहता, सो पाहन ले उसको डुबता. The stone which you are calling God, put that stone in water and it's going to sink. How is it going to help you to swim across the bhavjal? Not possible. Think. That's what whole of this Pauri and Shloka has been. We don't think. Man hatkine na payo, pucho Veda jaye. It says, if you go and study the entire Vedant, all Char Vedas, Simritis, none of them has ever said this. Only the Pandat made it into this. Why? Because Maya Moh Pyar. He needs the money. I was listening to a friend who just came back after visiting India and went to a particular hill station where there is some special temple of Sun Mata Devi. And she was describing to me how Mata made it possible for her to have a personal darshan while others were not even allowed to enter the temple because the temple is very small. And I was amazed at her happiness and the belief system that Mata made it possible that this particular disciple should be allowed to get ahead of everybody and get into the temple to have a personal darshan of that particular statue. We need to wake up. Those are all illusionary thoughts. They just cater to the ego. The reality is, she was traveling from America and she was offering in a higher value than anybody who was else in the line. Pandat saw it. So why not? Here is a chance to make some good money. Let this lady come ahead of everybody. Happens every day. Everywhere. Not just in temples. It happens in gurdwaras, churches, synagogues. It doesn't matter where it is. It is the end result of not thinking. Let's put our thinking head, and what will we get? Man hat kine na payo, pucho Veda jaye, Nanak har ki seva so kare, jis laye har laye. It is His grace. It is His prasad. Those who get His prasad are the blessed ones. They should be grateful to that higher energy, that higher source, who has helped them to drop the bondages, drop the training and drop the conditioning of the mind which says God lives here. Guru lives here. That's why this is a Gurdwara. Guru lives here. Those who say that they forget Guru mere sang sada hai naal hai. Now if Guru lives in a single place, how he is going to be with me everywhere? We need to wake up. What is a true Gurdwara? We need to understand. What is a true Guru? We need to understand. Once we understand, we will be capable of following the advice of the Guru, and by following that, we will be able to complete the mission on this planet during this life cycle. With that, if any one of my words have offended anybody, I sincerely apologize for my ignorance and my arrogance. And if anything has touched anybody, that's a message and a prasad from the higher beings. I hope you can take advantage of that. With that, we conclude today's talk, and we'll take a pause for any questions.